Welcome back to Gabriel Abroad. Today, let's see the stylized orb. I'm gonna show you a trick that is used in many game effects, and it's a must for making beautiful stylized effects. I also made sure that this entire project is available on my Patrons page, where we have a huge library of visual effects, links below by the way. Today's sponsor is Unity Asset Store, and it's the place to boost your game dev workflow. There's plenty of assets that will speed up your game development process, plus you also find my visual effects assets there. When making games, all of these tools and assets are a big plus that will help you create, iterate, prototype, and bring your projects to life quickly and effectively thanks to the Asset Store. Assets like Easy Save, A-Star Pathfinding, Feel are a must among many others, so make sure to use the link below. And now let's dive into this orb. So this is the orb we are going to create, a simplified version because this takes quite some time, but I'm going to show you the fundamental elements of this and then you can improve on top of that. So in my case I'm going to use VFX Graph, but you can still follow along with the particle system. And in case you might need some help, this video that I did a while back highlights the difference between VFX Graph and particle system, so anyone can convert from one to the other. So right click on a folder, Visual Effect Graph. I'm gonna call this one VFX Graph _orb _tutorial and drag it to the scene. Just gonna push it like 1.8 in the Y so it doesn't intersect with the ground, and then press the edit button to open this up. I'm gonna dog this around here, make some room, and one of the first things we can take care of is create a property, a float, that will dictate the duration of the orb, just in case. So on this plus sign, on the blackboard, we can add a float and call it duration. I'm gonna leave it at 10 seconds, and the way we use this is by selecting the spawn area, and on the inspector, we can say the loop duration is constant, as well as the loop count. This way it loops only one time, and for the loop duration we can connect the duration float we just created. Great! So this particle system is going to be for our background. Our orb needs a darker background. And I'm going to say the constant spawn rate is 2, which means every half a second a particle will be born. And I'm also going to add a single burst with a count of 1. So as soon as the orb is instantiated, this immediately starts emitting our background. Down here on initialize particle we don't need velocity, and lifetime can be constant. Let's turn off random on the inspector. Lifetime of 1, yeah. And the first thing we can do is on the main texture, click here and search for the default particle that comes with Unity, or you can use an image editing software to create a similar one. But this is going to be the particle for the background of our orb. Let's take care of the size. Before the set size over life, we want to add a set size block with a size of 5. And we can remove the set size over life. Here we go, that's how it is right now. As you can see, it has an hard edge if it touches any geometry. It's easy to fix in VFX Graph. We only need to turn on use soft particles on this output, and that's it. It will become soft every time it touches any geometry. Awesome. Now for the color, we are going to use this gradient, yes. But I'm going to push this key to more or less around here and the other one to a little bit back. So it fades in and fades out. And for the color of the first key, I'm going to go with a purple. A nice purple at around 250 for the hue. But the value, I'm going to decrease it to around 9, so it is black. And last key, we can delete it, just like this. Here's the color I'm going for. A purple one. Love it. Can try different colors, of course. I'm gonna rename this to Flare Dark, and I'm gonna select everything, and with Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V, I'm gonna create a copy of this for the Flare Bright, which is going to be in front of our background. Let's put it that way, of our orb's background. And for this one, the difference is the size. It's going to be smaller, 2, and the color. I'm gonna push these alpha keys up here a little bit to the extremities, and then for the color I'm only going to increase the intensity of the color that I previously added. Oh, and the value as well. Here we go, something more or less like this until we see some white in the middle. Yeah, alright, that is very nice. Good stuff. For the last key, I'm gonna say it's totally white. It starts bright purple and then it goes to white. And I'm gonna fade out even more at the end, just like this. Push this key to the back. That's looking good. It's the core of our orb, leaving 10 seconds. Another thing we can already do is, on the right, with spacebar, search for a simple particle system. We want some floating particles. That's what I'm gonna name this, particles floating. I'm gonna already select the default particle that comes with Unity for the main texture. And use the set size, but this time in random. Between something very small like 0.01 and 0.05. Set size over life, we can leave it, but the composition needs to be in multiply mode. Otherwise it overwrites the set size random. And the curve, it's going to be a little bit different. It's going to go from big to small, which means it will shrink towards the end of the lifetime. On the set color of a life, we actually are going to remove this one and use a set color only. Because here we are going to increase the intensity until we see some bright little dots flying around. Beautiful. Nice, nice, nice. Very nice. We want them to float. So I'm going to remove the set velocity. There's a better way. And I'm going to do it by searching a sphere. Set position sphere. They are going to spawn in a sphere position, as you can see. Very nice. But the sphere radius is going to be small, like 0.4. Alright, and now for the update particle, that's where we are going to make them move with the turbulence node. As you can see, the intensity makes them go haywire, makes them go crazy. I'm gonna create outside a random number, search it with spacebar, between 1 and 10. Yeah, 10 is a little bit too much. I'm gonna say 1 and 5, and I'm gonna increase the frequency to 10. It's still a little bit too much for me, so yeah, 3. 0.5 and 3. Yeah, so they float around the core of our orb. Last thing we need to take care of is the duration of this particle system. I'm gonna select the spawn and say the loop duration is constant and the loop count constant as well. And then connect the duration to the loop duration. Here we go. Alright, so we have a nice orb with its core and floating particles. You can try different textures, you can try different motions for the floating particles. But now we are going to take care of this amazing element, which is this sphere outside that looks like it's illuminated from the inside and dark on the outside. Let's see how we can do this. I'm gonna start by copying the flare dark particle system, Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V, select it. But we don't need a constant spawn rate, and we don't want this to have the loop duration or the loop count set to constant. We want them to be infinite, because the duration of this particle system will come from the set lifetime. Let's drag this down here and connect it like this. This object will live 10 seconds and then it will die. Down here, it is a mesh that we want to spawn. Let's drag a line from here and search for mesh. Exactly this one. It is spawning a very tiny capsule. That's the default mesh that VFX Graph uses. Let's say the set size of this is going to be 1 at least. Alright. We are going to replace this capsule with this sphere right here. I'm going to show you how to create one very quickly in Blender. I'm going to select everything with A and delete. And with Shift A, I'm going to add a sphere, UV sphere. You can also add it up here on this Add drop-down menu. And on this bottom left panel, we can control the vertices, the segments, the rings. I'm going to leave it as it is. The only thing I'm going to do is with spacebar search for Shade Smooth, which by the way, you can go to Object and use it right here. And that's it. Let's rename this object to Sphere 01 or 02 in my case. Just want to show that if I drag a new window and go to UV Editor, enter Edit Mode with Tab, as you can see the UVs are already done, which is super important for us. Right, so with the sphere selected, I'm going to go to Export, select FBX, dive into the project, rename this to Sphere 02, turn on selected objects and export. Here in Unity, now we can assign our sphere to this output particle mesh. You probably won't see it because in the sphere import panel, import settings, we need to say the scale factor is 100, so it matches Unity units, and press apply, and that's it. Now we have the sphere. Looking good. Now we are going to need a shader, and if you don't see this shader graph input, you can go to edit and in preference, in visual effects, turn on experimental operators /blocks. And then we can go to a folder and we right click, create shader graph, URP unlit shader graph. I'm gonna call this the Orb Shader Tutorial. Double click to open this up, and it's very simple. We are going to first say that allow material override is on, so we can control this however we want in VFX Graph, but we can already say that render face is both, so it renders the front and the back face of the sphere. Let's turn on alpha clipping, very important, so we can erode this, and let's turn on support VFX Graph so it works on VFX Graph. And for this specific shader we are going to need two colors, one for the front color and the other one for the back color. Both are going to be in HDR mode, white and alpha at 100%, exactly like this. And then we need a main texture. Let's create a texture 2D. I'm gonna drag this texture right here and sample this. And for now, I'm actually going to assign the Voronoi texture that I have here, which I will show you in a moment how to create it. For this tutorial's sake, I'm gonna select it right here, right now, so you can see something happening. And then the idea now is that we drag these two colors here and multiply them with this main texture. But before that, we can actually use a power node, create a float and call this the main texture power with the default value of 1. And this will help us do exactly this, erode however we want and how much we want. Cool. So let's multiply this result with each one of these colors. Exactly. And for example, let me show you one thing. If I connect the front color to the base color, and then we need to actually connect the result of the power node to the alpha, you can double click here to create this notch. And finally, let's just create a float, call it clip, which is going to be a slider between 0 and 1. So we can erode this. This is going to erode. And connect it to the alpha clip threshold. Make sure it is set to 0, this float property. So if we save this shader and go back to our VFX graph, now we can assign it right here, our Orb Shader Tutorial. First thing you will notice is that we need to assign that Voronoi texture that I'm going to show you how to create in a moment. Let me first show you how this works. I'm going to assign it right here. Here we go, beautiful stuff. And the clip, as you can see, it is eroding very nicely. Let's go ahead and actually rotate this up here, initialize particle at set angle with -90 in the X so it faces correctly. Exactly. So as I was saying, the clip, it is to erode, and if we enter in here, we have the front faces, and inside, as soon as we go inside, we can see the back faces. These are the back faces right here, and we are going to give a color to each one. For example, the front color can be a dark purple, super dark purple. I'm going to copy this color and paste it to the back color, and then increase the intensity like a lot, but nothing is happening because in our shader we still need to take care of that. So on this shader, on the orb shader, we can distinguish between the front and the back face with a isFrontFace. It's a boolean, which means we need to check if it is true or false. We can do it with a branch, which is basically an if statement. You can connect this to the predicate, and well, if it is true, if it is front face, we want this to be the front color. If it isn't, if it is false, we want to be the back color. And then we can connect this to the base color, save this, and Boom, here we go. Looking awesome. Look at this. I find this to be so smooth, so nice, this effect. Right, so I'm just going to increase the inside color, the back color, to be a little bit more like this. Very nice, a little bit more purple. And if we play everything together, here we go, looking very nice. What a beautiful orb we have here. Okay, so let me show you how you can do the texture, the Voronoi texture. Because the procedural Voronoi will create an artifact, so we need a texture. Then you can go to Google and search for Material Maker. This software is awesome. It lets us create materials, textures, based on nodes, just like Substance Designer, but it is free. You can find so many stuff here, and then if you press the download link, you'll be redirected to each IO page of the Roadzilla developers, and in here you can download for free or make a contribution, and once you download it, you can open Material Maker. This will be the window, and well, I gotta make a video only about this software, by the way, because this is extremely helpful for VFX artists. But today we are going to see very simple stuff. On the right we have all of these nodes library, we have noises, and we have Voronoi right here. You can also search for nodes with spacebar around here, and for example search for a Voronoi, and this Voronoi connected to the albedo, and say the scale Y, it's going to be 16. We need this to be stretched for our orb, and can increase the intensity, and then play with randomness. Can play with a lot of stuff, but today it's going to be something super basic, because that's pretty much it, what we need. You can control the size of this texture on the static PBR material, and then you can go to File, Export Material, select Unity 3D, and export it to a folder that you have around. As soon as you export it, you will end up with these 3 files. You only need the albedo one. You can even remove the albedo, and then drag and drop this to your Unity project, and that's it. Now on VFX Graph, you can assign the Voronoi you just created with Material Maker. Super cool stuff, right? And you can play a lot with that software to create very different textures. One last thing that I want to show you is this is super static, as you can see. So on our shader, let's actually, here before we sample the main texture, we can create a tiling and offset node, connect to the UV. And the way we do this is by using a time node, and then multiply it with a vector 2 that we can create and rename to main texture speed. Vector 2, 0, 0, connect it to the multiply, connect it to the offset, save this, and if we go back to VFX Graph, now you can say, for example, the main text speed, the X is 0.6 and the Y is minus 0.1. And here we go. If you play everything together, you get this awesome orb. Very simple, but very beautiful, as you can see. I obviously added a few more things that you can learn via my channel. There's plenty of tutorials, plenty of stuff that will definitely help you improve your skills as a VFX artist. If you want to look how I did the rest, I made this project available on my Patreon page. That's how this channel runs. And with a small contribution, you get access to a huge library of visual effects and assets that you can use for your games or to study up close. I left the link below. And to my patrons, I'm gonna say thank you to each one of you that supported me last month. And as usual, a quick shout out to the top tier patrons, which are Albert Sagera, Alexander Brazy, Alvman, Ape on Fire, Eviat Tobali, Brian Plant, CC Chu, Chen Jung Young, Cyber Cradle, Daniel Anderson, Daniel Schmidt, Diaku, Diana Simonyan, Diag Marcos, Fect Yellow, El Cherry, Helfscraft, Easy, Fang Strike, Frosty Ford, George Michael Berg, Grub Lab, Guilherme Trindade, Jackson Doyle, Jarrett Billy, Jeff Rowe, Casey Miller, Laptop, Lee and Alt, Lutuli, Liu Chung, Lucas Rocha, Matt Moore, Mayamet Ashir, Michael Bell, Minazuki, Nikolai Yalnazov, Oitsk, Pasi 098, Phoenix, Pradip Sen, Radioactive Bullfrog, Revenant Games, R. Lee, RVR, Shikakaka, Tom Tom, Travis McCollum, Barry Suta, Will Hughes, Will Polion, Dong Mokdong, Chim Pyonglin, and Minje Chim. Thank you all for your amazing support. You guys are awesome and you keep the channel running. Thank you so much. I hope everyone has enjoyed this video and I hope to see you on the next one. Thank you, bye!